Welcome to the Kindle Chronicles, the Friday podcast all about your Kindle. I'm Len Edgerly. Today is February 9th, 2018. Greetings from downtown Denver, where this week I Skyped to Cambridge, Massachusetts, our other home, for a conversation with my father, who will be 91 this month, and my grandson James, who will turn 12 3 days afterward. These two avid Kindle readers are separated by 79 years in age, but share a delight in the advantages of digital reading. James is even studying the popular highlights visible on his Kindle books for clues on how to make his own writing of a realistic fictional narrative stronger. Also this week, 2-hour delivery for Whole Foods orders. An Amazon Books store may be coming to Denver, and a pretty rough day for the stock of UPS and FedEx because of a new competitor for business-to-customer shipping. I think you can probably guess who that is. First up in news, Amazon this week in 4 test markets began making Whole Foods deliveries within 2 hours of placing an order. The new service is available to Amazon Prime members through Prime Now in certain neighborhoods of Austin, Cincinnati, Dallas, and Virginia Beach. Delivery is free with a minimum order of $35. If you can't wait 2 hours, you can pay an extra $8 per order for 1-hour delivery. Amazon and Whole Foods made the announcement on Thursday, February 8th in a press release with 2 date lines, Seattle and Austin, Austin being where the natural and organic groceries chain is based. Thousands of products are available for Prime Now delivery in the test markets. You can even have select alcohol products delivered within 2 hours. Prime Now delivery for Whole Foods orders is available from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. daily in these 4 test markets. I was, of course, disappointed that Boston and Denver were not included in the original test markets. I emailed listener Mark Roberts, who lives in the Dallas area, to see if his neighborhood has the new service. If you live in one of the 4 test cities, you can find out whether your actual neighborhood has it available to you by pointing your browser to primenow.com and then entering your zip code. If you see the Whole Foods Market logo appear under the Shop by Store results, you can order up 5.3 ounces of Siggy's Icelandic style strawberry yogurt for $1.25 and Amy's organic vegetable pot pie for $3.99, a spicy sushi combo for $11.99, or a bag of white green seedless grapes for $7.98. Those items are among those available from the Dallas zip code 75205. I don't know if that's Mark Roberts' zip code. He sent me an email when I was alerting him to the fact that he might be in one of these test markets, and this is what he had to say. What? Oh my, I hesitate to think of what you've just started. Hey Dina, these folks will bring us chocolate in 2 hours. Get some hamburger and sardines for Carson while you're at it. That's his dog, little Scotty. And the hashtag is sending the bill to Kindle Chronicles. Well, you could try that. Whole Foods staffers will be the ones filling the Prime Now orders, apparently, and they probably know where stuff is better than other third-party delivery services such as Instacart. A Forbes story on the new service, penned by Phil the Supermarket Guru, said, quote, "For those like myself who have become frustrated with the poor quality selection from these other delivery services, especially in produce, the quality of Whole Foods in-store pickers could well be the secret weapon that not only adds new customers to the chain and new members to Amazon Prime, but could well be the driver that finally increases the percentage of people buying groceries online. The number one complaint and hesitancy to date has been the quality of fresh foods delivered." I have to say that the quality of the produce that Darlene and I have had delivered here in Denver and in Cambridge through Amazon Fresh has been surprisingly good, generally. The new 2-hour deliveries from Whole Foods are, in my view, not a big surprise, because shortly after Amazon's acquisition of Whole Foods, we did begin to see Whole Foods products available quite quickly through Amazon Fresh delivery. And those deliveries are often available the same day that you place the order. Not quite 2 hours, but certainly less than a full day. I hope Amazon keeps the minimum order for Prime Now deliveries for Whole Foods at the attractive level of $35. I noticed that Amazon Fresh order minimums increased to $50 from about $35 a while ago. I think that makes the service slightly less compelling. If you're going to buy $50 worth of groceries, it might make sense to make a trip of it because you might discover other things that you want just by being in the store. By the way, Darlene and I had occasion here in Denver last week to use the Alexa app on our iPhones to coordinate our shopping in the new Whole Foods store that opened last fall in downtown Denver, just a few blocks from our apartment. We've both gotten used to saying, Alexa, add peanut butter to the shopping list, or whatever else comes to mind during the day. When we arrived at Whole Foods, I made sure that we were both on the free Wi-Fi network, and then we headed for different sections of the store. When I checked off cottage cheese on my Alexa app list, a check mark appeared on Darlene's app in real time, so she knew that item had been taken care of. It was pretty cool, and it saved us 3 minutes on that shopping time. It also entertained me more than I usually am when I'm shopping for groceries. Next in news, we may finally be getting an Amazon bookstore here in Denver. An item in an online publication named Business Den this week reported that Amazon is looking at a site in the Cherry Creek North neighborhood about 5 miles from downtown. Citing a source familiar with the deal, Business Den said the store will be about 5,000 square feet, which is similar to the other 13 Amazon bookstores now open throughout the country. When I tweeted my enthusiasm for the report, an acquaintance of mine who works in retail counter-tweeted the following: Amazon, stay out of Cherry Creek North. Your stores don't fit the demographic, and we already have a fantastic bookstore. Well, Cherry Creek is a pretty upscale retail area that I think certainly fits Amazon's general demographic, so I don't get the point on that one. I think the bookstore reference applied to the Hermitage Bookshop, one of Denver's oldest independent bookstores that I discovered on the web. I haven't actually been there. I'd like to check it out sometime. And as it happens, the owner of the Hermitage has a thoughtful and measured answer to a question on his webpage that was probably meant to be provocative. The question was, do you think you could convince someone who reads off a Kindle to shop in your store? And Bob Top replied, there are two different reading experiences. The Kindle is wonderful on an airplane or on a beach. You don't have to lug books around. There's also something nice about holding a book, though. There is something about the physicality of it that is just warmer somehow. But also, I think people realize that, especially if they grew up in a home with books, that books are a part of the home environment. People like to see a nice vase on a table or a nice piece of art on the wall. I think people are realizing that they may read on a Kindle, but a lot of them at least still like to see and own the book. Very nice. Makes me want to go meet Bob Top and visit his store. I hope the report of an Amazon bookstore in Denver is accurate, because I would like to be able to stop in from time to time, see what the new technology is being tested in the stores. It would make sense, I think, at some point to bring the Amazon Go cashierless checkout capability to Amazon bookstores. I've noticed in stores that I visited that the checkout counters are kind of off to the side. Maybe they were designed right from the start to be repurposed someday as simply another area to showcase books and gadgets. If the store went to an Amazon Go type checkout. Next in news, a report today in the Wall Street Journal that Amazon is preparing to launch a delivery service for businesses, positioning it to compete directly with UPS and FedEx. The service is named Shipping with Amazon, the journal reported, quoting unnamed people familiar with the matter. Businesses using the new service will have Amazon pick up their packages and deliver them to customers. Amazon's new service is expected to debut in Los Angeles in the coming weeks, with more cities to follow. Shares of UPS closed down today by 2.6%, and FedEx shares dropped by 4%. This development does not seem that surprising to me, given Amazon's expanding network of planes, trucks, and individual drivers who are delivering boxes with Amazon Prime tape all over them. I'm sure FedEx and UPS have been preparing for this day for a long time, even as they remain partners with Amazon for a big amount of their business. Finally in news, Amazon Fire tablets have finally moved past Samsung tablets to become the second biggest selling tablets worldwide. That news comes from market data released by the research firm IDC this week. The firm estimated that Amazon's worldwide tablet shipments soared 48% in the last quarter of 2017. Amazon sold an estimated 7.7 million tablets in the quarter, compared with 7 million for Samsung. Apple is still comfortably in the lead in tablet sales with its category-defining iPad. Apple shipped an estimated 13.2 million tablets in the quarter, earning a 26.6% market share. Amazon's share was 15.6%. And Samsung had 14.1%. I'm actually surprised it's taken this long for Amazon to nose out Samsung in the tablets market. The quality of the Fire HD 8 tablet, I think, is terrific for watching Poldark when I'm on the cross trainer and reading Hamilton in my leather chair during the day. I still read my Kindle at night and outside. The HD 8, by the way, is on the sale today for $60. That's a $20 savings on the usual price. Those kinds of sales are pretty common on the tablets, so the prices are very competitive. I also have a Fire HD 10, and that's great for comic books, magazines, and it's the one I use when I'm working off the script for the show each week, because I get just a little more type displayed at once. And the HD 10 is also on sale, $120 compared with the usual price of $150. Give people a solid quality product at a very attractive price, and you tend to gain in market share. Pretty simple. I've got several tech tips this week. The first that I want to share is a Kindle annotations tool that I heard about from Kevin Kelly's excellent Recommendo weekly email newsletter. You can check it out at readwise.io. I'm pretty sure this is an evolution from clippings.io. That's another annotations program that I tried for a while, a year or two ago. The new name shows that it's got a kind of a different approach. It seems wasn't the case when I tried it before is that when you load all of your highlights and annotations into their system, then it will generate emails to you each day, plucking quotes and I suppose notes of books that you might have read several years ago, and they're going to just show up in your email box, and then you can set up this email to say which books you'd like to see these snippets appear from. So interesting idea. I signed up for it, and I got the first set of email quotes showed up tonight, and that'll be fun to see and probably tweak the list as it goes. It did take quite a while, I'd say at least a half an hour for Readwise to digest all of the annotations from my 645 books that showed up in the Kindle archive, and the resulting list of books and highlights was pretty intimidating to deal with. There was a way to unclick all the books and then go through and just click on a manageable number of them, so that I'll be receiving samples from books I've read that, not too many at one time. The basic Amazon highlights capability at read.amazon.com/notebook. I still think this is kind of the simplest, nicest way to go in and find the highlights and annotations I've made on a specific book if I'm preparing to interview an author or something like that. But this Readwise capability to generate an email summary of annotations is interesting. It seems to be quite well done. There weren't any glitches when I was going through it. I'll have a link to the show notes of a rave review of Readwise at Kevin Kelly's kk.org site. It's in a section of his site called Cool Tools. The next tech tip might be of interest if you have an Amazon locker near you that you'd like to try for deliveries or returns from Amazon. We have several near us here in downtown Denver, and I wanted to choose the one at the new Whole Foods for an order of Nespresso coffee capsules. I thought it would be easy to choose the locker at checkout when I had ordered the Nespresso, but I couldn't figure out a way to do it. I had to call tech support, and I learned that in order to have a locker location show up in my address book, I had to navigate to Amazon.com/locker and then click on your nearest location. I was able then to search by address, zip code, landmark, or locker name. When I entered my zip code, 20 different locker locations appeared around us, including the one at Whole Foods. When I clicked on the gold select button for the Whole Foods locker, it was automatically added to the addresses that show up in my Amazon address book. And now when I'm choosing a shipping address, the locker is easily visible as one of the places I can have it delivered. I received a text message when the Nespresso was available for pickup at the locker, so I took the free mall shuttle down to Whole Foods. I entered the locker code on a touch screen, and voila, a door opened, kind of magical, open sesame, and there was my package with the Nespresso. It might have been just as easy to have it delivered to our building, but then I would have had to go down to the lobby and ask the concierge to get it from the mailroom, and those guys are pretty busy. So I kind of like the idea of just being able to go get it myself from the locker at Whole Foods. The final tech tip is an update to the Kindle software, which came out, I think, this week, maybe last week. It was passed along to us by listeners Steve Mashburn and Tom Semple. It covers the 7th generation and later Kindles, and it features expanded search. This is kind of interesting. It means that when you do an in-book search now, when you're reading a book, the results include your notes and highlights, not just other text that's in the book. There is also an in-book clock, so you can check the current time without leaving the page that you are reading. You choose that in the display settings. That's the capital A, small a at the top of the page. Tom Semple also notes that the update beefs up the report content error feature. I've always wondered if anybody really uses that or if authors get that information, but it's still there, and Tom points out it now has about 12 discrete types of errors, including plot error, factual error, and he writes, it should be fun for authors to get some of that feedback. Wish they would add this feature on other platforms. Also, he notes these may have been there before, but there are now dictionaries for 5 Indic languages: Hindi, Tamil, Gujarati, Marathi, and Malayalam. Except for the latter, there are also translation dictionaries to and from English. Finally, I did reach out to Amazon about a question that I mentioned last week about reading speed on the Kindle. That came from Al Saikali, and this is the answer that I received from Amazon. It just arrived tonight before I started recording. Time to read is determined by a number of factors, including time on a page flip speed, as well as line spacing and font size a reader is using. It also takes into account when a reader flips forward or backwards in a book. There's more information. There's kind of a summary about reading features, and I'll have a link to that in the show notes. The response continues, as you read, the time to read feature is constantly updating. Reading statistics are not currently available to customers. So that's interesting. In other words, if you flip around in a book and then you're reading more in a more leisurely way, the time to read feature, which calculates how long it's going to take to get to the end of the chapter and the end of the book, is constantly updating, so it's tracking your most recent reading speed. For the interview, we now travel in time and space by Skype to the kitchen of my parents' home in Cambridge, Massachusetts, 2 days ago, where we will find my father, William, and my grandson, James, with technical assistance from my daughter, Sarah, James's mother, who is a middle school literacy coach and reading specialist in the Cambridge public school system. Dad and James were both born this month, 79 years apart. Dad will turn 91 on February 18th, and James will turn 12 on February 21st. Darlene and I are flying back to Boston for their joint birthday party and some other family events. We'll be leaving on Monday. In addition to sharing the same birth month, James and my father are both avid Kindle readers. You may remember their debut on the podcast together nearly 2 years ago in July of 2016. They have both done a lot of reading on their Kindle since then, and James this past Christmas chose gifts based on his knowledge that his grandparents and great-grandparents are passionate readers. He gave Darlene and me a book and another to my parents, who are known in our family as Pa and Bray, and he invited us to join him in separate conversations about the books after we had read them. That's something we're looking forward to, a sort of family literary salon that James initiated this year at Christmas. We'll begin with James's telling of how he chose the books for these Christmas gifts.
I decided because I really like reading, and I know that all of you like reading too, and I decided to find an individual book for each of you that I think that you would like and enjoy.
And I think you gave a hard copy and a Kindle copy because you knew some of us like to read on Kindles, and that was thoughtful.
Yeah.
What was the book that you gave to Pa and Bray? What was the title of that one?
I gave them Number the Stars.
Number the Stars. And why did you think that would be a book that they would be interested in?
I think it would be a book that they would be interested in because it's about historical fiction, and it's around the time when they're alive. And it's, I think, something that they would take interest in. It has a good plot, and I think it's a good book, and it has a lot of action, and it's not too long.
Yeah. Is it, what is the setting during World War II?
Yeah.
Dad, you've read the book. What were your impressions of it and how it matched up with your own personal experience in your life?
Well, I was 16 at the time. Anne-Marie was 10. And it was a time of foreboding, and it's terribly concerning because things were going on we didn't understand. So you put that very large context of what was happening in the world in the life of a 10-year-old child. And I thought the book did that beautifully.
What and your memories as a 16-year-old? What kind of experience was that to be living through the war at that age?
We were very conscious of the war and following it very closely. It was, of course, distant from us. We were also conscious of the concentration camps, which were in the background of this book. But it was distant. We knew there was something bad going on, and we were very conscious of it, but we didn't have any role to play, just to listen to what's happening.
Was that the period when you created a scrapbook and you were cutting out news of the war and collecting it in a fairly organized way?
Yes, I did. It was all about battles. I was very conscious of how crucial winning this battle or that battle was. And so that's what I clipped those out, particularly in 1940 when this began for Denmark, and 1943 the book, and during that period the occupation. There were some very important battles going on at that time.
Yeah. And James, you read the book yourself. What most affected you about the story? You could relate to the girl that's in the story, and she's kind of worried about what's going to happen to her?
I thought it was interesting how in the book they kind of played off of like how people might like say they want to be brave, but deep down they don't really think they can. I thought that was interesting, and I thought it was really amazing how so many people like in the resistance saved a lot of lives. I thought that was very amazing that they risked their lives like that.
Yeah, I've thought that same thing. You hear stories of people that were brave in a situation like that, and I always hoped that I would be brave if I was ever faced with that, but I sometimes think you don't really know until you're in it and you see what kind of action you take. And the book that you chose for Darlene and me, James, was The City of Ember by Jeanne DuPrau. What did you like about that book, and why did you think that would be one that Darlene and I might want to read?
What I liked about that book is I think it was very good. It had a lot of like new inventions and kind of technology in it, and I know that you're interested in that, and that it also has mystery, which I know that Darlene likes.
Ah.
And I thought it was a very good book. It was also like it had a lot of action, and I thought that it was interesting how they made a whole new city and what they based it on. I thought like the whole idea of it was very interesting.
Yeah, I did too. Well, that's fascinating that you were able to imagine a book that Darlene and I would both like, because we do have very different interests. That she reads mysteries and I follow technology. So I hadn't realized that you had thought that carefully about a book that we would both like. That was well done. One thing that struck me as I read The City of Ember, there's sort of two young people who are the heroes, Lena and Dune Harrow. They're in this underground city. They don't know it's underground, but it's Ember is this city that's underground, and it was sort of a refuge from some bad times above ground. But she believes that there's another city other than this dark place where they can't even they don't even have flashlights, and it's sort of a bad scene. And she just keeps believing that there's a city out there that everyone can thrive in. And because I'm such a big fan of Amazon and Jeff Bezos, it reminded me of Bezos, because one of the things that's odd and kind of impressive about him is that he's used a lot of this money he has from Amazon to create a spaceship company called Blue Origin. And he believes that the future of humankind is going to depend on colonizing space. And a lot of people think he's crazy. The Earth is really big and we should be able to live on Earth forever. But I think he's a little bit like Lena in his vision of the importance of building rockets that can get us out into space, because sometime, hundreds of years hence, we may have to move a lot of our human activity there. So, Lena and Jeff Bezos, kindred spirits. Did you have any other book gifts to others in the family that you're going to follow up with discussions like you did with Pa and Bray and Darlene and me?
Yes, I do.
Who else did you give books to?
I gave a book to my other grandparents.
Amanda and Dusty? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Did you give Sarah books so that you could have a discussion with her?
No, but we talk about a lot of the books that we read. We sometimes read books.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to turn to sort of general topics about Kindle reading. I listened to the conversation we had almost 2 years ago, and at that time you were both reading on a Kindle, both enjoying reading on a Kindle. James, I think you at that time were reading on a Paperwhite, and Dad, you were reading mainly on an iPhone using the Kindle app. I'm wondering if in the past couple of years there have been any changes in the way you're reading, the devices you're reading on, or what's changed in the last 2 years compared to when we were talking last?
Now I'm reading on Lois.
I'll jump in here to explain that I gave James my first generation Kindle Oasis for his Christmas present because I had the new one that I decided to switch from the smaller Oasis to the larger screen Oasis, and I'm really enjoying the next generation of it. So I was glad to hear that he is now the happy owner of the first generation Oasis. That's the one that has the charging cover as part of the cover.
And I like it a lot better. It's a lot lighter. Sometimes in the outside cover of my Paperwhite there would be kind of stuff stuck in it, but I kind of like how the Oasis doesn't have that. And I also like how you can press buttons too. I think that's kind of nice, and how you can take off the cover and how the cover charges it. I think I like the Oasis a lot better. It's kind of light, and I appreciate it. And now I can't really imagine reading on a Paperwhite. I like the Oasis.
The Paperwhite seems kind of heavy, I guess. Mm-hmm. Do you usually read the Oasis with the cover detached or with the cover on it?
Usually with the cover on.
Yeah. Back in 2016, you weren't able to take your Kindle to school, but has that changed so that you can read the Kindle in school now?
Yeah, I'd like to take my Kindle to school now. Yeah, I read a lot of books at school too, and in my ELA class, my English class, they give us 10 minutes of reading before we start what we're supposed to do, and I use the Oasis.
Are there any other kids in the class that are using that time to read on a Kindle or an iPad or something like that?
I don't think so. I saw one girl with an Oasis, but now she reads. She just reads a book. I think I'm the only one in my ELA. Yeah.
And Dad, how about you? Have you any changes in how much you're reading on the iPhone versus the Kindle, or other aspects of how you're using the technology for reading books?
I've become more and more a victim of the convenience of the iPhone. I realize I'm carrying my entire library around in my pocket. In 2 years time period, awareness has deepened. Currently, I'm reading a 1,000-page book on former President Ulysses S. Grant.
Oh, the Chernow biography.
Around in my little pocket.
Yeah.
And I get a kick out of that. And knowing that I have the whole Bible in my iPhone. So I guess my answer to you would be more and more delight in the convenience of this way of reading.
That's amazing when you think of if you had to actually carry that Grant biography around with you, It would be quite a burden.
Possible.
Now, and I have a larger iPhone screen on the iPhone 10. You've never seemed to be bothered. I think you're reading on the iPhone 6, which is one of the smaller screens, but you still find that perfectly adequate way to read, even though you're not seeing much text at a time?
I certainly do, and I think as time has gone on, I've become more comfortable with that. I'm just used to reading a book on a small screen, and it doesn't seem to be any impediment.
Yeah. James, have you ever read any of your Kindle books on Sarah's iPad or tried or an iPhone or anything in addition to reading on your Oasis?
The problem with the iPad and the iPhone is sometimes when I look at a screen other than a Kindle for too long, it hurts. It gives me a headache.
Yeah.
So it's easier to read, because you don't have, I think, blue light on the Oasis.
Yeah, I think there have been studies that show the eye strain of a LCD screen is much more than the screen on a Kindle. And then do you adjust the light on the Kindle sort of to have it be as not bright as possible so that it's easier to read?
Not usually, unless I've turned off the light to my room and I need a light to see.
Yeah, it doubles as a flashlight. What else are you reading on your Kindle now, James? Are you in the middle of another series, or?
Yes, I'm in the middle of the series. It's by Cynthia Voigt, and I read the first book, Homecoming, and then I'm reading the second book, Dicey Song. They're very good books, and I'm going to read the third book soon.
Are there a lot in that series?
I'm not sure. I don't know how many. I think maybe, 4 or 5. I'm not sure.
Are they solving mysteries, or what sort of a story is it?
Realistic fiction.
Oh.
Or more, I think it takes place a little bit long. Well, not too long ago, maybe.
Yeah.
10 or 20 years ago, I don't know.
Right.
But I like them. They're very good.
James isn't alone in liking the Tillerman cycle. I looked it up after our conversation, and there's a good summary of this series at Goodreads. I'll have a link to it in the show notes. The Tillerman cycle series has 7 books. They're not in chronological order, but they all deal with the same family. And the description says, with both parents gone, the 4 Tillerman children, Sammy, Maybeth, James, and Dicey, who at 13 is the oldest and the one responsible, have to find a place where they can live together. And once they have done that, they have to learn how to be there, how to live their own lives and grow up into their own selves. The Tillermans, all of them, including Graham and Mama and Bullet, are not people who have things easy or make things easy on themselves. These books tell the various stories of this family and of their friends, too. The titles are Homecoming, Dicey Song, A Solitary Blue, The Runner, Come a Stranger, Sons from Afar, and 17 Against the Dealer. It strikes me this is a pretty grown-up fare, a complicated story. This is, I don't know exactly what I was reading when I was 12 years old, but I don't think I was delving into the complexity of the way this series sounds, the Tillerman cycle. And I like James's description of realistic fiction. Well, and Dad, how far are you into the Ulysses Grant biography at this point?
We're still in the middle of the Civil War.
Mm-hmm.
He went to West Point. He fought in the Mexican War. He did very well then, became a civilian, and was a total failure in everything he tried.
Yeah.
And then the Civil War came along, and he was not at the high level of being a general, but as time went on, he was the one that won the battles.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm in the middle of the battle to take Vicksburg at the present. And there's a good deal more to his life that came after that.
I'm reading the book the biography that he wrote of Alexander Hamilton that got turned into a hit Broadway musical. He just makes it so interesting to see how this guy grew up in the West Indies, and he was an orphan, and then he makes his way to the U.S. and ends up helping Washington during the Revolution, and he has quite a gift of bringing these historical figures to life.
My favorite reading for some time has been the biographies of presidents, such as Madison, Monroe, and others. And I discovered really that it's like a novel, as you describe it. You don't know where it's going to go. The young child is born and becomes president, and there's a lot of things, and it just keeps you interested.
That's right. James, do you think that you read at about the same speed no matter what type of book you're reading, or sometimes in one book you might find yourself turning the pages more quickly than others, or what's your sense of the speed that you read at?
I'm not sure. I think I read at about the same speed. I don't really pay attention to that, but I think there's a difference. I can be more excited about reading a certain book more than another, but I have to read a book each night for reading. But my mom finds good books for me.
Right.
I like to read realistic fiction.
That's an interesting term. So realistic fiction as opposed to fantasy that couldn't really happen in real life, but it's fiction that could happen, but it's somebody has created the story.
Yes.
Yeah. Why do you like that better than sort of fantasy fiction or sort of created worlds?
Fantasy can be good sometimes, but sometimes it can be a little too predictable, and it's not always I like real world situations.
Yeah. Well, you learn from them. That's one thing. You can kind of imagine what decisions you would make in that situation. And I like that too. Somewhere in my education, I picked up a real reluctance to ever start a book and not finish it. And because there's so many books out there, especially on the Kindle, sometimes that seems like a problem. I wish that I had the ability, if I got a third of a way through a book and I'm just not enjoying it, I wish I could just say, I'm not going to finish this book, put it back in the archive and start another one. But I'm wondering if you two have a similar feeling, or how often do you end up not finishing a book that you start?
Well, I would want to say a lot. Many books that I start don't finish, one reason or another. But I kind of look at these books as, let's say, a bowl of soup. And you decided to take a spoonful now and then. And it's enjoyable in its own sake. And so I find that dipping into a book, such as the Grant book, in any place in the book is entertaining to read.
Right. Not so much driven to finish it, but just to enjoy it whenever you happen to be reading it.
I must say I have somewhat of a habit of the book starts to go slowly. I go right to the last page. Then I know how it finished.
How about you, James? Do you generally finish every book that you start reading?
Yeah, I generally finish every book I start reading, except if it's too kind of violent or scary, then I stop reading it. I was in this terrible series, but I just wanted to finish the last book, and I did. I don't usually...
Even though it was kind of violent?
No, that series wasn't violent, but I went to the end of it, even though it was kind of boring.
Oh, I see. Yeah. How do you decide what to read next, James?
A lot of the time, my mom finds popular realistic fiction books that other kids have been reading, and there's recommendations too, books by the same author.
How about you, Dad? Do you have any kind of a general method for what you read next?
I think it's from a friend.
Yeah.
Or friends, but I do have a friend who does a lot of reading of the kind of things that I'm interested in. He did give me a tip recently, a book on theoretical physics.
Oh.
That's one of those I didn't finish.
That sounds pretty dry.
I went through it with, even the language was beyond my ability to deal with.
Yeah.
So, but that's been kind of it, and other friends that say, if you read such and such a book, you might be interested.
Yeah. James, do you think that you like reading books more than most of the kids you know your age?
Yes, I really love reading books. And another thing that I have learned when I'm reading my books, when it says when there's highlights, and I've been writing a realistic fiction narrative for my class. It's an assignment, and there's certain phrases in books or things that have been highlighted 300 times, 1,000 times, things like that. And I've been noticing that I try to make my phrases in my book kind of try to be like those phrases, because I've gotten to know what are the powerful phrases that people are going to highlight and and that's what I've been using in my narrative. Wow.
Have you found any common elements of the phrases that people highlight as to what do you think makes the difference?
Kind of deep phrases, interesting thoughts, things like that. And when I type a sentence, I'm like, is a lot of people going to highlight that? Is that a kind of interesting sentence that people would?
That's fascinating. That's a good use of the highlights in your work as a writer.
Well, yeah, it's not the things that I highlight, it's the things that that there's like usually an underline under like a sentence, and it says 3,000 highlights. It's more of those. It's not ones I've highlighted myself.
Right. It's the popular highlights of other readers. Sometimes when I've talked to authors on the show, I've said, are you aware that you can go into your book and see which passages of your book are highlighted by the most people? And a couple of them said, no, I had no idea that I could do that. And I said, well, and here's the passage in your book that's been the most highlighted, and I'll read it to them, and they go, well, I'll be darned. What? That's interesting that that's what most of the readers have highlighted. The other thing I've done is if I read a book and then I return to it in a year, sometimes I'll note a passage saying, well, 2,000 people highlighted this passage, and then I'll go back and check in a year from then, and I'll say 5,000 have highlighted it, so I can see how many more people highlighted it in the passing year. So it's sort of like an ever-changing snapshot of what parts of a book people are really enjoying. But I think you're the first writer that I've ever heard look that carefully at popular highlights as clues to make your own writing stronger. That's pretty fascinating. So one of these times when we get together, we're going to be talking about James's first book published on Kindle. I'm pretty sure of that, and I'm really looking forward to it. Do either of you have any other thoughts about Kindles or the books that James gave for Christmas?
Well, my thoughts are from the point of view of being the great-grandfather. James is our first great-grandson. And I'm just continually amazed at the complexity and rapid progress of the kind of thing that you're talking about.
Yeah, that's right. How about you, James? Any final thoughts?
Something that I might want to improve about Kindle is sometimes on the Oasis it switches to like the screen switches to kind of like a different side. Like if you turn it, I kind of wish there was a button for that. Like, what do you call it when the screen, if you move it to another side, sometimes if you hold it a certain way, it's upside down and then it goes right side up.
Right.
I wish there was a button to kind of make it so you can have the screen facing the way you want it to. If you right hand and it's the other way, I wish there was a button to make it so you could hold it in your right hand and have it be the right way all the time. You could just kind of lock it.
Oh, you could lock it in there, and there may be a setting that you can lock it, but I like the idea, too, of having a button that would make that switch. Otherwise, the accelerometer knows which way you're holding it. That would be interesting, to have more control over that view than there is now.
Because so annoyed and I'm in my bed and I don't want to hold the Kindle with my left hand and I just want to hold it with my right hand, and I'm kind of I have to keep trying to flip it, keep trying to make it go the right way, but it's sometimes difficult sometimes.
That's a good observation. I have been speaking with my father, William, and my grandson, James. Thanks very much to you both for joining me.
It's our pleasure, Len. Come again.
In content, listener Guven Vidovine writes, like Pavlov's dog, I seem to be conditioned to click my bookmark to browse the monthly lineup of Kindle titles on special offer. Maybe you could share this link with pod listeners or readers of your online writing. That's a good idea, Guven. I will have a link in the show notes to the monthly deals. They offer discounts of up to 80% off, and they are organized in helpful categories such as mysteries, literature and fiction, romance, and science fiction. You'll find a link to that at thekindlechronicles.com. That's it for this week. Next week's show will be all about libraries because the American Library Association is holding its midwinter meeting here in Denver this weekend, and I'm going to go over there and do some recording and seeing what I can learn about libraries. Last year's event in Atlanta had the lowest attendance of any midwinter meeting in 25 years, 8,326, compared with 11,716 the previous year in Boston. I'm hoping the Denver venue will help the ALA return to a robust turnout, more like past years. In any event, there will be a huge exhibit hall to explore and perhaps the opportunity to attend some workshops and presentations. I didn't get approved to get press credentials, so I've got to make kind of a financial decision if I'm going to register for a full registration to get into the events, but I have a feeling there's going to be a lot going on in that exhibit hall, and look forward to seeing what they've got there. I also look forward to seeing listener Kevin Parsons patrons at the show. He and his wife, who is a collection development librarian in Georgia, will be traveling to Denver to attend the show. He gets to travel around the city while she's taking part in the show. So he and I are going to have a chance to have a cup of coffee either at the Denver Convention Center or nearby and catch up on our latest passions for Kindle and reading and all sorts of other things. Music for my podcast is from an original Thelonious Monk composition named Well You Needn't. This version is Ra Monk by Eval Monnegat on the Variations in Time, a Jazz Perspective CD by Public Transit Recording. This is Len Edgerly for the Kindle Chronicles from downtown Denver. I really appreciate your taking the time to listen to my show. Have a great day. Bye.